Hi, Henry here with Sous Chef Depot today. I just wanted to tell you about being able to actually do a fully electric food truck. With a caveat, it's electric in regards to all the refrigeration equipment and the lights. If you are running a cooking line food truck, you will need to actually, what do you want to call it? Run your cooking line on propane. There's no way around it, and it's going to be pretty straightforward and simple. So if I were to bring up this layout that I have here as a basic, is that this is really close to the most common type of food truck out there in the industry. Is that you use a 14 footer. This thing's going to cost you roughly about $35,000 to $40,000 if you go with any type of builder. Obviously, if you're in California or New York, it's going to be 50 to 60,000 because you have a lot of regulation there. But it's very common. You have a refrigerator, or this could also be a freezer. You have a sandwich prep table. You have your serving window, your three compartments, and then you have a griddle, a two burner, and a 40-pound fryer, maybe two 40-pound fryers. Uh, there's just this combination. You typically have either an 8 or 9 foot hood, and you would change it around the way you need to do it. Smaller griddle, bigger fryer, oven, just whatever you need to make your stuff work. And then you would put a generator right here in the front, and you run propane. Now, when I'm saying running a battery, I'm talking about running on refrigeration and everything except the cooking equipment on electrical. And for a full 8 to 10 hour working day, you will still need your two propane tanks to run your gas equipment. Because just really quickly to prove it to you, if you're running any type of real operation where you're doing a lot of customers per hour, you're going to need a full size 40-pound deep fryer. You're not going to get one of those small 10, 15-pounder countertops. It just will not do in that case. Is that if I go with this 40-pound deep fryer here from Cookline, it says right here that it uses 12 kilowatts heating output at 208 volts. That is 12,000 watts every single hour. When I'm going right here to show you this is a reasonable system to put in, and just to tell you this is not in any way going to be cheaper than a generator in the short term. Technically, in the long term, if everything goes right, you might be saving several $1,000s, but that is 7 to 10 years down the road. So if this is your first food truck or trailer, and unless you got a lot of money and you're paying for this stuff fully in cash, you want to go grab just a really cheap generator, Predator 5000, Predator 9500. If you have a little bit more money to play with, the middle ground between this stuff would be a Honda inverter. So you essentially go from the cheapest, which is $790, to the second best, which is a real quiet inverter generator, which is going to be a Honda. Because this stuff right here says it's super quiet. It's a bullshit number. This stuff is going to run at 68 decibels if you're 23 feet away and it's running at 25% load. But obviously, if someone's standing in front of the food truck or right there at a table, you're like 5 to 10 feet away from the generator. And at that point, it's going to be closer to 80 decibels if you're running anywhere near 70, 80% capacity. Now, with the Honda, with this big old generator, which is already 4 times the price, then you'll actually be able to run at full 5,500 watt load while only being at 58 decibels. 58 decibels, obviously you could go to any type of food truck event, so you could just see it for yourself in person. But 58 decibels, where like, it's a little loud. It's like a dishwasher running in the background. It's annoying, but like you can live with it. It's not an issue. You can eat dinner right next to your dishwasher while it's running. It's not an issue. Same thing for this Honda generator. It's like ever so slightly louder than a dishwasher, but it's doable. Once you get it to any generator but a Honda, doesn't matter who you go with, it's going to be in the 70 to 80 range. And then like that's where it's like, I'm fine with coming up to the window. I can order. I might even stand around for a minute or two, but I sure as hell am not sitting at a table for half an hour while that generator is going off in the background. It's just not an option. Honda is obviously going to be significantly cheaper upfront compared to a battery powered system, but still, it's a good chunk of change, $4,500. So the people coming here today is either you're rich, you're a company who's willing to spend a lot of money on a really good food truck. It's just a lot of upfront cost. Um, and then if it's your second or third food truck where you're like, you know what, I might want to put a $10,000 investment down to get something more quality and better. Now, why would you actually want to go with the battery power setup? Is that there's only realistically three things. The first one, which is the best overall, is when you're going from your event. So say you're located at your commissary and you got to some event an hour and a half drive away, is that how are you going to keep your refrigerators and freezers running on it? Some people have found a way to jerry rig it into their trailer hookup. Obviously, at scale with larger trailers, you can't provide enough power from your truck to do that. If you're actually literally a food truck and not a trailer, then that's also possible. You might need to add in 2 or 3 extra batteries to handle that output. And then most commonly, what two people do right now is that if you're just using a regular trailer, is that you would either just hope for the best. So after an hour, your refrigeration is going to be off for a little bit, and all your stuff is going to be in there thawing. It's not too much of an issue. And then the second thing is I've seen very common is that people actually just have their generator on the tongue of their truck or inside their pickup truck bed, and they're just running it while driving on the road. Now that does work. Obviously, the few things you want to look at is while you're driving is you're gonna want to make sure your generator doesn't shut off sometimes because that does happen. And then that's a lot of wear and tear on your generator while running down the road. Is that realistically, if your generator is spec'd out to last for 5 years, you should probably cut that down to 2 or 3 years before you need to replace it. So generators are really good when you don't have a lot of capital for upfront costs. So you can immediately just do, 790. That's easy. You can put it on a credit card. You can get it same day. Harbor Freight's all over the place. There's also different variations at Lowe's and Home Depot. They're not nearly as cheap or the right fit for a food truck at those places. So Harbor Freight is your best bet here in America. And then with inverters, um, you're already at right here. It says $8,000. And realistically, you're probably not too tech savvy. You're going to hire some company to go out there and install it for you. Personally, I don't do this. This is all theoretical. I have knowledge with this. My dad's an electrical engineer. I have no problem with this. I replace outlets, and I've done some electrical work before in the past. Um, but I would need to charge you at least $12,000 per system to make it worth my while, and maybe even upwards of $14,000 to $15,000 depending on where it's going and specifications. If you don't want this type of brand, you want to go with a very specific brand. It could cost many of thousands of dollars more. So now actually comparing the two. So this is the 5,000 watt generator. It does 3,900, if I remember correctly, output, which is good enough for average food truck or trailer. And then without having to get into the manual and stuff, is that it says at 25% load, it can run for about 18 hours with a 3.7 gallon tank. So if you were to take those numbers and you would actually run it near full capacity, which is about 3,000 to 4,000 watts, is that you would need to run that full. So instead of being 18-hour runtime, you divide it by 4. So realistically, if you're running this thing around 3 to 3,500 watts, you're only going to get about, actually a little bit more than this, so 5 hours of runtime. You could technically push it to 6, but that's on a case-by-case basis. So let's just stick with 5 hours for this generator. And at 3.7 gallons, that is $3 a gallon right now here in Florida. So you'd spend about $11 in gas. But realistically, you would do a lot more than a 5-hour workday, probably closer to 10. So let's stick with 10. So you want to double this. So in a 10-hour workday running around 3,000 watts, you're going to need $22 or about 7 gallons in gas. You're going to be running this generator throughout the whole day. And that's really it. 22 bucks a day with a small initial investment. And that's what, let's move over to this guy. So this is an 8 kilowatt inverter. It's actually a little bit more on the expensive side. It's literally $300 difference between an 8 kilowatt and a 6 kilowatt. There's even 5s and 4s. But in the sake of a trailer, is that for expansion reasons, you'd want to just upgrade automatically to an 8 kilowatt, even if it costs $300 more. Because if you added in a microwave in the future or a blender, each one of those is another 1,000, 2,000 watts for power. So $300 just to get it initially, there's really no issue with doing that. So that's a little bit on the overkill side, but there's no real cost difference. And then switching over to the batteries. So these are 3 batteries at 2150 a piece at 51.2 volts times 200 amp hours. So each battery does 10,240 watts times 3. So this system has roughly 30,000 watts or 30 kilowatts of storage. So like I said with this one, this is roughly at 3,000, 3,500. My calculations are based off using 3,000 watts per hour. So if you divide this across 10 hours, that means you can do 3,000 watts per hour. So you need at least 3 of these battery banks in order to make this worthwhile and actually feasible in the real world. So you can do a full 10-hour day with just 3 batteries in this inverter for upfront of 8,000. Now, just so you understand, is that here in Florida they charge in Orlando 17 cents per kilowatt hour. So at 17 cents times 30, which is how much this can handle, let's actually even upgrade a little bit more. So 33, because you do have a little bit of loss. So 33 times 0.17, so 560 is your cost to charge up your units, your batteries for the whole day. So this inverter generator used $22 in gas. You're going to spend about $5.50 to $6 in electricity for your same battery bank to do the same output. Very obviously, you can have a very silent setup versus a loud setup. And then your advantage is that you can run your equipment while going down the road. And yeah, so when you look at this over the long term, is that you're saving 15 bucks per day. So when you do this, so you would have this is $8,000 for the equipment. Realistically, it'd be more about $14,000 after full installation, and then other little issues that will occur 6 years down the road. So 14,000 is more realistic. So if you were to divide that by the fact that you spend $15 a day, you would need to run your food truck for a total of 933 days. Realistically, you're only running your food truck, 250 days a year? So it would take you at least 3.7 years to recoup your money to make these equal in total price, to recoup your price. Now, like I said, that's at least. After, if you include all the small issues, you get a long run of the years, you might wait 5 to 6 years before this becomes just the same as this. But obviously, you have to do that initial upfront investment. Obviously, if it's on a loan, technically, you're fine that way. Because what will happen is that this is, I said 240 days. 240 days times $22 for your gas means every year that you're running this generator, you're going to need to spend about $5,000 on going to the gas station to get gas. And when you compare that to the 240 times $6 a day, you're only spending $14.40 on electricity when you hook up your house or your commissary. And some of you might be lucky. Here in Florida, at least as far as I remember right now, is that you're not required to have a commissary in most counties here. So you would just hook up to your local power here at your house or wherever you can store it. Now, those people who have the states with commissaries, you're already paying 300. I've even seen some ones where it's upwards of $1,000 per month for your commissary. Obviously, you're going to have power hookup there, and then your power actually be completely free. So technically, you could say you're actually saving all that money, but that really depends on state. That doesn't really apply here in Florida. But for those of you who do have commissaries, this would actually just be more than likely included in the cost of your commissary. So you would be saving roughly $5,000 per year. And then actually, yeah, it might be only about 3 to 4 years to recoup your costs. Um, but I'm going to err on the side that's not going to happen, especially here for my environment. So yeah, save $3,000, $4,000 a year compared to gas for this kind of stuff. This is obviously going more on the higher side. It really depends on what you're doing in your food truck or trailer. That's why these things are theoretical numbers. And obviously, I don't recommend this for your first food truck or trailer unless you got money to spend. Because unless you do the real numbers out there, which I haven't done yet, this is just, looking at rough numbers, is that I might be off significantly, and maybe it might actually take 10 years to fully recoup your costs. But I'm just assuming, hey, these people are working 4 to 5 days a week. They're running close to 10 hours a day with their generator, between whether running the generator while they're on the road or while they're at the event. It really depends on who you are and what you're doing in your truck or trailer. Obviously, issues can occur with both this. So, say you are running this generator, there's a good chance that within the next 5 years, it might just die on you, and you have to go buy a second one. So, you could say you could double the cost on here, but that's also very likely here with this battery stuff, because this stuff you require maintenance. You got these vents right here on the side to keep it cool and stuff. Is that at the end of the day, if you're not cleaning this every few months, or maybe something just completely different happens and it's just bad luck and something breaks that's not covered under warranty, you might need to replace a whole inverter unit or whole battery unit, and that's 2 or 3 grand right there, and that's even before installation. So when you're looking at this stuff and comparing it, you're not doing this because this is a better value in any way. Now, 10, 20 years from now, let's say 2035, battery costs are going to be cut in half roughly at the current rate. So this exact system right now costs, before installation, just to keep it simple, it costs $8,000 today. I bet by 2035, you can buy this exact same setup in that year, and this will probably be about 3 grand. At that point, it will be fully obvious to want to go over to a battery setup because it's significantly cheaper and you will recoup your costs no matter what. That's just not feasible today. But what has happened in the last few years, the battery prices come down enough where it's actually practical to even think about it to be equivalent when looking in the long term. Definitely not in the short term. But yeah, let me see what's on my list. Yeah, you need propane equipment just because this stuff is excessive on how many kilowatts you use. If you use 12 kilowatts, is only a 30 kilowatt system. That means that if you ran just that deep fryer, it would just kill your batteries in less than 3 hours. And then just for practicality, just so you understand, do not try to put solar panels on your roof for this kind of food truck or trailer. The only way I can say this is that if you somehow are running a ice cream trailer or food truck, and it's like a 26-footer food truck, then you could actually put enough panels. Because here, this is a 14-footer, and let's actually swap over to a really high power panel right now. So 450 watts. Let's just stick to this 450 right here. That says 450, 550. But at 450, not even looking at price, because say price wasn't even a factor for you, is that realistically 450 watts per panel. This stuff has the dimensions. Let me pull them up. Is that it is 75 inches by 44. Well, this thing is 8.5 feet wide. You literally can't make your stuff wider than that. That's the legal limit for the width of a trailer. Is that you can only put two of them side by side, and then with the 6 feet long and a 14-foot trailer, you can only put two this way. So you can realistically only put four of them up here on top of a 14-foot trailer, and then off with a hood and a hotline, you actually have an exhaust fan up here. So technically, you're gonna only be able to put like 3.5 food trailers in here because you have your exhaust fan right here on the top. So at three, but I'm really going to give you the benefit of the doubt that you somehow got 3.5 up there. So 3.5 times 450 watts means you can theoretically only get 1,500 watts, and these are brand new panels at that time. Now, if you have a cloudy day, if it's the winter, especially if you're not here in Florida, if you're here in Florida and it's a full bright sunny day, you could actually pull upwards of 1,500 watts. Fun fact is that solar panels can actually overheat. So as they get too hot, they actually will not be able to do the full 1,500. So when you look at that 1,500 number, you probably actually want to take about 60% of that. 1575 times 0.6. So this is roughly how much you would get out per hour every hour. Just averaging across a little bit of clouds. It's winter time. You got less sunlight overall. And then say you're not pointing the right way or there's a shadow of a building in your way. I'm really saying that you could get 945, which is not very likely for most of you guys. So that is only going to be about 1/3 of your actual output or consumption. So yes, could it supplement you slightly? Yes. It's going to cost you another $1,500 to install all that. So you're going to have 3 panels at roughly $1,200, 4 panels, whatever, and then installation, hardware. You also need to go up there periodically to clean it off. And then doing the fact you're putting even more screws into your ceiling, so that means more potentials for leaks. So realistically, for something like this, it's going to cost about $1,500 to get it fully installed. You can do that if you got the money. You're not going to save money. That's all I'm saying. For you, those who are out there trying to be like, oh, I can save money with doing this type of system. No, you are not. What you are going to be doing is if you are into saving the world, yes, you're kind of helping out a little bit. And then also just for the fact that it is a good backup to supplement. So pretty much if you were to do this plus your battery backup, that would pretty much guarantee that you would never need to run a generator at any time. But beyond that, there's no cost savings in it. What do I call it? and call it hassle savings. Saves you the hassle of having to bring a generator just in case as a backup, um, and all that stuff. Now, obviously, you're gonna have to be the type of person who wants to clean your solar panels and do all those other things. Um, but yeah, this is realistically what you need to do in order to do a uh, technically fully electric food truck with propane ran equipment. If you really want to do this and you have more questions, feel free to reach out to me at henry@souschefdepot.com. We can talk about it. I can give you some advice if you want to do it on your own. If you're willing to come down here to Orlando, Florida, I'm telling you straight up, just because this is, if you come down here anytime this year at least, you can be one of my first customers. It's really two options. Either I'm going to say, hey, I will do the best I can. I will make sure this thing obviously works when you pick up, and I'll give it 30 days. And I'll do it. I'll fully install it for roughly 12 grand if you were to go with this exact setup right here, not including the solar panels. Solar panels with solar panels, 14 to 15 grand. Um, and we'll work on it. But I will say this much is that what I've seen in the industry is that I will charge you 14, 15 grand, which is a chunk of change. I am pretty damn sure if you were to go up to other companies and ask for a lithium setup, because this is what I've seen mostly in the industry, is that other companies are a lot cheaper, but they're going to give you lead acid batteries, or they're not going to give you the proper type of equipment, they're not going to proper installation, they're not going to put a proper and this is even for generators, what I'm talking about is that they're not going to give you a proper setup or cage run your generator. So I don't expect them to do that stuff when it comes to a special electrical system like this. So they might charge a little bit cheaper than me, but if you did find a real company who wanted to do a very professional setup, I've seen that they charge outrageous pricing, $20,000, $30,000. No, yeah, I know why they do it. It's because of bureaucracy, not because that's actually what the equipment takes to install. Because everyone wants to get paid. But yeah, if you're interested in this and you want to pay me to do it, come bring your trailer down to Orlando, Florida. Bring a cashier's check for 14 grand, and I'll install it for you gladly. And yeah, at 14 grand, I'll give it a 1-year warranty. Why not? You have a good one. Thank you.